Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to take a look at the total three. Basically, the total three is the broader altcoin market. It's basically every single altcoin except Ethereum. So basically, zooming all the way out, what do we see? Well, we first had our bull run, right? Then we had our bear market. Then we had another bull run. Now we're in another bear market. What happens next? I think you know the answer. So just looking at let's just try to compare, right? The previous cycle, which is this bull run, this bear market, and this reaccumulation. So you have a bull market, right? Same thing here. You have a bull market. Then you have a bear market. Then you have a bear market. Then you have this sort of sideways chop going on in here, right? You have this base. Same thing going on right now. You have the same type of base, right? It's not identical, but you get the gist of it, right? So right here is same type of thing as what's going on right here. And if you ask me, I think this one looks more bullish than this one did at the time. But it's hard to say, right? I like this right here because of a few reasons. And we'll get into those reasons in a bit. But first, check this out. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's go over here. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, fair enough. Then you had a pump to the upside. Same thing over here. Then you have a pump to the upside. It's harder to see it, right? Because I'm on log scale. So this right here will be more magnified than this, right? But if I flip it on a linear scale, it'll look totally different. But anyway, we have this 5-wave move down. We have the same thing here, 5-wave move down. Then we have a pump to the upside. Same thing here. We have a pump to the upside. Then what do we see? We see this sort of creek or spring or pullback, whatever you want to call it. We come all the way down, and this right here was C19, so it's kind of like a little anomaly in the chart. But just for entertainment purposes, we have a pump and then a dump. Same thing here. We have a pump and then a dump. And then what happens next? We break out. And what's happening right now? Well, it looks like we are attempting to break out. Now, just because we see it on the chart doesn't mean it's going to happen today or tomorrow or next week or even next month. Remember, this is the weekly chart. So each candle represents 1 week of price action. So it could take some time, and then also understand we have pullbacks coming too along the way. So, but what I really like about this chart, and I'm going to get into the Wyckoff accumulation in a minute, but just check this out. This is, what do you see there? To me, this is a beautiful inverse head and shoulder. So you have your left shoulder. So here's your neckline right here. This is our neckline. We have our shoulder, left shoulder into the resistance. We have our head into the resistance. And then we have our right shoulder into the resistance. And then what happens after the right shoulder completes? We break out. Now, a lot of people like to mock head and shoulders patterns and things like that. But remember, sometimes the most simplest thing is usually the answer, right? Occam's razor is a good example. Sometimes the simple thing is the answer. I'll give you an example. Now, granted, a lot of times head and shoulders don't work out, and I wouldn't trade them all the time. But usually I like to trade them based off of confirmation, and it sort of adds to our artillery. It adds to our ammunition whether or not we're going to long or short, right? So I'm assuming the majority here are hodlers, and that's what I do primarily. 90% I hodl, 10% I use to trade. I think for me that's the best way to do it. But everybody's different. Everybody has to have their own set of rules, their own strategy, and things like that. So real quick, an example would be right here. You see this shoulder, head, shoulder, right? And then there was your neckline, right? And then when we broke that neckline, boom, we came all the way down, right? And now we developed another head and shoulders, but it's reversed, it's inversed, right? So, they're kind of useful, and I would stick to more of the higher time frames when using them, right? I wouldn't trade a 10-minute chart or even maybe a 1 hour chart, but they are there, and they are definitely useful. So that is bullish thing number 2, right? So bullish thing number 1 is basically repeating this right here. We're repeating this crash and consolidation. So same thing here, crash, consolidation. So that's bullish thing number 1. Bullish thing number 2, we have this inverse head and shoulders pattern. So your shoulder, your head, your right shoulder, and a breakout. So let's talk about that for a second. What could potentially happen now after this, right? Well, always be cautious of a back test or a pullback. If you notice, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 green weeks. So that's 1 month of solid uptrend. Then we have this sort of consolidation right here. And now we're attempting to break that consolidation to the upside. So we have to keep in mind that there's always a chance that the price could come back and back test certain areas, right? So for example, you break out, you can A, B, C, and then back test this downward resistance line right here, right? Back test, and then start marching to the upside, right? Because remember, nothing goes up in a straight line. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen, right? Remember, none of this is financial advice. I could be totally dead wrong on everything I say. This is just my opinions, my speculation, and this is what I do for a living. So take it for what you will, but never copy anybody on what they have to say. Just take it into consideration into your own analysis. And that's usually what I do. When I follow different traders and I follow different ideas, I don't literally copy that. I just take it into consideration for my own analysis. And that's a healthy way to grow your arsenal there. So, what else could be happening here? Well, going back to that back test, right, we can come back down. It doesn't necessarily have to do it now, right? We can come up, pump a little higher, and then come back down and back test this horizontal line, right? Down in here, forgive my drawing, it's horrible, right? And then start marching higher. But the point is, right, the direction is what we care about, not necessarily the pullbacks and things like that. The direction, in my opinion, is bullish. And here is one of my number 1 reasons why right here. This is a accumulation schematic. So this is a Wyckoff accumulation schematic, and this is what I believe is happening at the moment. So if I just sort of match it up here, and I can kind of go through it with everybody. So let's use the arrow. So we have this. So this is the Wyckoff. So we have phase A, right? Phase B, phase C, D, and E. So basically the price moves up into resistance. Then it pulls back. Then it comes up. So to identify Wyckoff, a simple way to do it is just look for like an M, right? So this is like drawing an M. 1, 2, 3, right? So if you see an M pattern, it could possibly be a Wyckoff pattern, right? So we have this up move. Same thing here. We have this up move. Then we have this move to the downside. Same thing here. We have this move to the downside. Secondary test phase B. Then we have this retracement back to the upside, not necessarily taking out this high. Same thing here. We have this retracement back to the upside, not necessarily taking out that high. And then this is the most important part, in my opinion, is this right here. So there can be two different examples for, I'll pull that up. So this is the other example, right? This is like a spring phase, and I like this one as well. So basically this one suggests, right? The difference here is basically they're identical. The difference here is this one breaks all the way to the downside. They call it a spring. And basically it allows the market makers to fill in their positions because retail traders are looking at this as support. So you have a point here and a point here. And then it breaks to the downside, right? It breaks to the downside. What does retail do? They all go short, right? They all go short. And let me actually make it bigger so we could see. Right? So here's your support, and then what happens? The price comes all the way down. Everybody's getting bearish, more bearish, more bearish, and then all of a sudden, people say, "All right, I'm going to sell everything," right? And then what happens is they break these two lows, and then what happens? They all go short. And when all the retail traders go short because they broke support, then all of a sudden there's an influx of liquidity, and that influx of liquidity allows for the market makers to go long and get their position filled, and then all of a sudden, boom, it goes way, way higher. So that's for that example. I'll delete that because that's not the example we're looking at. We're looking at this one right here. So you can see how it sort of comes down here, consolidates, and then goes back higher. So I'll draw that here. So you could see how it is sort of kind of like a cup, like it sort of cups out of here. Same thing here, it's cupping out of here. So it's got this little cupping motion. And then here's where it gets interesting, is when price completes this curve, right, this LPS, and then it breaks out, and then it sort of consolidates on top of this resistance. So same thing here. It breaks out, and it's sort of consolidating in between these two lines here, and then we can start to get out of here. So we're not totally confirmed yet, right? We still got to break this. If we can close above this on a, well, in reality, on a weekly scale would be the best. If we can have a weekly candle above 446.6 billion, then I think we'll be in real good shape for more continuation to the upside. So I'm going to show you a picture that actually overlays this so that you can see it all matched up nicely. So here's one picture I had drawn today, and basically just highlighting the different points, right? So if you want to pause the video and just sort of examine and make up your own conclusion to where we are, right? Okay, so here we have the chart basically overlaid on top of the price, right? So the example is basically overlaid on the price. And let me just zoom in here a little bit. You could see it's perfectly, right? Well, nothing's perfect, but you can see it's, let me change that color. Coming back down, right? Same thing. Having a curl. And this is the important part right here. If we can basically oscillate in here and then break out, that would be the big signal. So basically that's what this video is about. Can we breakout of this Wyckoff accumulation schematic. That is the big thing. And right now we completed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost 6 different points, right? So we're almost there. We're almost there. And if you look at like coins like ADA, they're different coins that are popping off. You can see that's a good sign for the rest of the market. Now, if your coin hasn't popped off, like my coin is XRP. Obviously, I'm diverse. I have a lot of different coins, but primarily my big holding is XRP. And second to that would probably be THETA. And I love those two assets for utility, fundamental purposes, but also because of the chart, right? So if your coin isn't popping off, don't be alarmed. Actually, I would encourage, if you haven't already, watch the video that I put out yesterday talking about Bitcoin, is pumping and pumping and pumping, and some altcoins aren't doing anything. For example, like XRP is like around 60 cents. Bitcoin was at 34K, 37K, 40K, 44K. XRP still at 62 cents, right? What the hell is it doing? It's not doing anything. So people are sort of freaking out and capitulating and trying to understand, right? But at the end of the day, the video describes why that is. And it's basically Bitcoin altcoin divergence, right? You need Bitcoin. We should all be cheering for Bitcoin. Even if you don't hold Bitcoin, we want to cheer for Bitcoin to go higher and higher, because as it starts to pump, the altcoins kind of are stagnant. But then once Bitcoin starts to consolidate bullishly, right, while still remaining with the bullish posture, right, that's when the altcoins can start to pump and make their move. So we have to wait until Bitcoin stops pumping up the jams, right? I mean, go to the weekly chart on Bitcoin. So right here, you can see, just look at this rally. I mean, look at all these green candles, green candle after green candle after green candle, just pumping and pumping and pumping. And over here, right, these are the all-time highs up in here. And here's the bear market, and now Bitcoin is retracing. Look how much it retraced. It already retraced, I think, a little over 50% of that move, right? So it's a pretty monster retracement so far. If I take it into linear scale, it'll look more about the same, right? So basically, Bitcoin has been pumping and pumping and pumping, right? And so, for example, a lot of altcoins are still way down here, right? They're barely, they had their one pump, and then now they're pulling back, right? So, for example, like THETA. THETA had what? So far, just one big pump, and now it's pulling back, right? A little bit. So Bitcoin's way over here, and THETA's still like way down here. And same for XRP and a bunch of other ones, right? Even like ADA, it had its pump, but it's still way down. So like right here, here's ADA, or here's THETA coin. Let me put it on log scale. So here we go. So look at the difference, right? You saw Bitcoin. You saw the price of Bitcoin. Look at the price of THETA. Bitcoin's way up here and THETA's way down here. All it had is one little pump. That's it. So that's why people are getting, it's driving them crazy. Because Bitcoin has been what? It's been doing this, and now it's like all the way up here, and their altcoin is way down here. So they're trying to figure out, hey, wait a minute, what's going on? How come my altcoin ain't pumping like Bitcoin is? And then what happens is people sell their altcoin to go chase Bitcoin. But let me ask you this. What would you rather hold? A coin that's already way up here, or a coin that's only down here? I mean, come on. Just because Bitcoin's pumping and you're seeing news articles like Bloomberg and CNN and Cointelegraph and all these sites, right? Bitcoin's pumping, and it gets people jealous. That's basically what it is. It makes people feel like they're missing out. And that's what the market makers are doing. They're psychologically trying to sway your position. That's what it's about, right? You have a position. And the powers that be want to make you either sell your position or change your position, right? That's what they want. So what you have to do is the best thing you could possibly do, not financial advice, right? The best thing I can possibly do is do nothing. You do nothing. If you hold in crypto, hold it. Don't worry about it. If Bitcoin goes to 100K, don't worry about it. The point is, now, it might be confusing. Like, well, what do you mean? Watch the video I put out yesterday. Basically saying that Bitcoin pumps up while the altcoins pull back, go sideways. But then once Bitcoin consolidates like this, it goes sideways. That's when the altcoins catch up. And then when Bitcoin pumps again, you know what I'm saying? Like they pull back and then they catch up and then they go even further than Bitcoin. So that's what I'm saying. For example, look at theta. Theta's way down here. If I take a measuring, just to get back to sort of where Bitcoin is, right? That's another 200-300% away. So if you dump your altcoin to go chase Bitcoin, you're missing out on a lot of potential ROI that's upcoming into the future, right? Here's a great example. I showed this yesterday. So check this out. And I'll just touch on it real quick since I already had a video out yesterday, but I feel like it's important to reemphasize because a lot of times, things need to be looked at more closely. So here's Bitcoin right here. You see it right there? There's Bitcoin. And this was, by the way, last market cycle. And the same is applying for this market cycle. So notice here, Bitcoin is in this upwards channel, right? But look at the altcoins. They're in a downward channel. Look at, they're all going down. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. They're all going down, right? And what is Bitcoin doing? Bitcoin's going up. So what does that do? That drives people crazy. It makes them sell. And a lot of people sold their altcoin to chase Bitcoin. And what I'm saying is that is a big mistake. Altcoins have the best potential out there. And here's proof right here. Ready? So look at this. When Bitcoin broke out, then the altcoins also broke out. And you say, well, that's to be expected, right? But then look, Bitcoin pulled back, altcoins pulled back. But then when Bitcoin went up just a little tiny bit, look at this little tiny move right there. Look at the altcoin move. Look at this monster move compared to this little move compared to this big move. So that's what I'm saying. You want to wait for it to happen. So Bitcoin just does this right here. It trends up, altcoins go down, and then all of a sudden they catch up like in an instant, right? It doesn't take that much for altcoins to catch up because they have smaller market caps, right? That's why Bitcoin moves, slowly and methodically because it's almost I think $1 trillion market cap, not too much. Right, between 700 billion, 800 billion, around there. So it's like a big Olympic-sized swimming pool. So if you throw a rock in an Olympic-sized swimming pool, you might not notice it as much as if you throw a big rock into a little baby pool, right? So that's what I'm saying. Like the splash could be bigger and more noticeable. And that's the thing about the altcoins, right? So there's my little rant about that. Hopefully that made sense to everybody. So let's get back to the analysis. Okay, so since we're on the price of theta, why not? Let's look at the price of theta. So basically, before I do that, I'm just going to reemphasize a few things on total 3. And by the way, what I say for total 3 also applies for theta. So, because it's all in the same, it's bundled together, right? So basically, a few options here. This was an A, B, C. So we have an A, B, C, and now we're starting to kick off the trend. So this is a 1, 2, and now we're in the process of an impulse wave to the upside. So that's a definite possibility. So you have A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So that's definitely a potential contender there. So, for example, Elliott wave is like this. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? You guys know this. And then you have A, B, C, you have a three-way pullback, and then you continue higher and higher and higher, right? So that's one way to look at it. And basically, another way here is we are in a retracement. So basically a retracement would suggest that this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that would be wave A, right? And now this is 1, 2, and now we're in the process of 3, which would be wave B, right? And then we come down for another 5 waves, which would be then what? Wave C. So let me put that right there. So wave C, right? And that whole thing would be a 1, 2, 3. So A, B, C. But the question is B finished? I don't think B is finished. So either way, if we have the bearish scenario or the bullish scenario, I think both of them are saying, hey, we still have much more upside to go. Regardless if we're macro bearish or macro bullish, we still have more, in my opinion, upside to go. So let's say this was the count. Where could potentially C finish, right? Well, we can actually come all the way down here. I don't think that's the case, though. I think probably around, somewhere around there would be my guess. Between 150 to 200 billion dollar market cap, right? So that would be the target right in here. And then we would just sort of consolidate 1, 2, and then we would start to really pump up, right? And then what that would be, right? What that would be here is that would be a 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we're going into the 5th wave. But we're in the process of a wave 4, and a wave 4, just like a wave 2, is an ABC. So ABC, and then we go higher, right? So that's one way you can look at it. So let's say that is the count. Then where would the target be? Well, let's pull our Fibonacci retracement, and we can see exactly where we could potentially top out, because you want to always be prepared for anything, right? So let's come down here. So I would be looking at this right between the 786 and the 618. So right in here, right? So that would be the retracement. And look how much further we have to go. That's another, we're at 430 billion right now. That's another 400 billion right there, right? Getting up to that $800 billion mark for the market cap. So what would that look like? Well, that would be an A, B, and now we're in the process of C. So wave C needs 5 waves. So let's see if we can identify 5 waves. So not even close, right? I probably won't even, there's no point of me doing it, right? This whole thing would be 1, 2, right? 3, 4, 5. So that would be wave 1 of 5. Then you have a pullback. Then 3, right? Then you have a pullback. Then 5, right? So each wave has 5 waves. So, for example, wave 1 has 5 subwaves. Wave 3 has 5 subwaves. So this whole thing would then be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and which would get us up to the target. Is it going to draw? I'm just drawing lines just to give you an idea of the potential wave pattern. So the wave count, right? So is it going to exactly go that way? Absolutely not. Just it might do that, but I'm just giving you an example of what to expect. So let me take everything off the screen here. So yeah, that would be my target would be right in here somewhere. Now if it's very bearish, it might only get to that 50% line, which is right here. So we'll have to see how this develops. But right now we have a lot of things going for it, which is number 1, we have a beautiful sideways base. Number 2, we have the Wyckoff accumulation pattern that has been playing out perfectly. And we're right at that final stage before we have a blast off. So we're sitting right here, right above this support. We need to take out this high right here. So we need to take out 452 billion, right? So we're still a little ways away, not too far, right? But once we take that out, then we can really start to pump. And where would the first pit stop be? Well, to me, it would be this first pivot right down here, somewhere between there, right? So that would be right at these resistance areas right here, which was, by the way, previous support. And then it broke down, and now it's probably most likely going to come back and retest that area, right? So anytime you have a break of support like we did here, usually we come back and retest it. Now, if we stall out right here and start coming back down, then two things could happen. Either a back test, right? So we break out, we come up here, then we come down and back test this whole base down in here. We back test it, right? And that would be part of the 5 waves to the upside, right? So then we would come back up like this. So that would be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We get up here, and then once we get up there, then the decision needs to be made, right? If we can get above 942 billion, I believe we're in a new bull market, right? That tells me we're going to probably break out. But for me, I'm treating this as a retracement simply because Bitcoin. To me, Bitcoin looks like it's in a retracement. I mean, obviously, it is in a retracement. The question is, can it get through the retracement levels? And if you haven't seen that video, you can check it out. Just look for the Bitcoin video, basically saying, can we get above the 618 through the 702 through the 786, right? So basically, can we get above 52K to 60K? If we can get above that, then we have a really good chance at all-time high. But until then, like I said, I'm treating it as a retracement. So, yeah, so we have this crash, we have this retrace, and then what happens next? We come down for reaccumulation. So here's my grand thesis. If we don't get above here, if we don't get above the 786, number one, this is a crash, a retrace, reaccumulation, right? And then we come sideways for a bit, and then we start our new bull run. So that would be like a cup and handle right in here, right? So it'd be crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways, blast off, just like the XRP example I shared. That would be my primary idea. Idea number 2 is this is A, B, and then we come down all the way down to C, and then we blast off. But notice, every idea, every count says we go higher. We go higher, right? If we break this, we go higher. So that's why it's important, at least for me, to hodl. Hold on for dear life, because you just never know. And it's better to go on about your life and not to worry about it. Spend time with your friends, your family, and just live life. Don't worry about what crypto's doing, because why? Because all you got to do is hodl. If we come down in a big bear market, you know what? You add to your position. If you have, so this is remember, not financial advice. Don't listen to me. But for example, if I use me, if I'm working, if I have a job, what do? I have a paycheck, right? I take my paycheck, I pay my bills, and blah, blah, blah. And then what do? I put the rest into savings, right? That's what people do. But for me, I put my spending money or whatever I saved back into crypto, right? So let's say I do this for the next 3 years. Imagine how big my bag would be if the price did this, right? So all this time, right, going all the way to 2025, 2026, and I'm just putting it like $50, $100, $200, $100, right? Every week or every month or however much you want to do. Maybe it's $20 a month, right? Whatever it is, right? In a couple years, you're going to see a massive a bag, because I don't look at the dollar valuation of my XRP, for example. I look at the coins, right? So, do I care? Yes, obviously. But what's more important to me is no matter what happens during the next couple years, I believe ultimately the trend is up, right? So, option number one, rapid fire. Ready? One, A, B, C, and then we go to the moon, right? The next one would be A, B, C, and then we go to the moon. And then the next one would be crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways, blast off. So all answers, rather if it's an A, B, C, then we go, or if it's an A, B, C down here and then we go, we have 1, 2, 3. We have 3 ideas. I believe it's going to be one of those ideas, but they all lead up at some point. The difference is this one goes sooner, this one takes a little longer, and this one takes the longest, right? So that's the thing. Do I know which one it's going to be? No. Why? Because we have to wait until we get through the retracement levels. We have to figure out what happens as we get up here. Look, we're not even at the 236. We're not even at the 236 yet. We still have the 236, the 382, the 50, right? Then the 618, 702. So we still have a ways to go here in the broader altcoin market, and that's why I think it's important to, like, why would you sell now? You know what I mean? It's crazy. Not financial advice, by the way. We just to get back to the 236, it's another 15%. 382, another 40%. To the 50, that's another about 60%. And then this is where the interesting stuff starts to happen. The 618 between 85% and 115%. So, yeah, we still got a lot of work to do. But the point of this video is to say that we are looking healthy. We are looking optimistic. And a lot of it has to do, in my opinion, is with this Wyckoff accumulation, right? And then also you could see we sort of got a little, maybe a little ascending triangle working here. It's not perfect, but you know, something like this, right? We got a little ascending triangle. So if it really wanted to, maybe it comes back down and then comes back out and it coils up in this triangle and then it goes. Maybe, maybe not, right? So, yeah, I think things are looking very bright for the altcoin market. Now, what has to happen? Number one, the dollar has to stay, down. Number two, Bitcoin has to stay up. And number three, the stock market has to stay relatively healthy. So if we get those 3 things, right, a lot of things have to go. Look, to me, the altcoin market is the best performing, is the best chance you have, in my opinion, at becoming rich, right? But it's very hard to nail it. Why? Because a lot of things have to go right? It's like making a secret recipe, whatever you want, right? Let's say like a barbecue brisket. No, like the best, it was voted number 1 by all the judges, but nobody knows how it was made because there's so many things that had to go right in the recipe in order for that brisket to be the best, right? So I look at the altcoin market as that perfect brisket, but at the same time, a lot of things have to go right in order for it to happen, which is Bitcoin staying up, dollar staying down, stock market staying up, right? And nothing going crazy like black swan events or anything crazy. And then you also have to have the government chill out, right? The SEC, they like to go sue exchanges. They like to sue individual blockchain projects, right? Like XRP, Cardano, all they like to go after them. right? Then you have like the worries of FTX, right? It collapsed. What if we have another collapse of an exchange, right? What if we have a cyber attack? There's so many things that could go wrong, and that is why it's very risky. It's very risky. But what else are you going to do? Take no risk and just, do nothing for no. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take the risk because what other chance do I have, right? I could play the stock market, but the stock market's been going up for the last 100 years. I mean, how much more can it go? Maybe more, right? I could stay in dollars, but then dollars inflate. I could go buy gold, which I do. I could get silver, right? I can be in the bond market. I can get treasuries, but China and Russia and everybody else are dumping treasuries. So where else do you go? I have no idea. For me, the best place to be in at the moment would be crypto, right? Granted, it's very volatile, it's very risky, but at the end of the day, what else are you going to be in? I think the best thing for me to be in is number one, crypto, number two, gold and silver, and number three, cash. And you say, cash? Why cash? Physical cash, paper cash, right? If we have a cyber attack or something goes down, you can't use your debit card. You can't use your credit card, right? The debt continues to increase. What are we at? 30, 40 trillion dollars in debt, right? You go use your card, there's a credit freeze. Nobody can buy, right? So for example, Walmart, how do you think they buy their stuff? They use credit. They use their bank. And then they pay it off, right? So if there's a credit freeze, then what happens? Distribution stops. The trucks stop, right? The whole world runs off of 18-wheelers, big rigs, right? They deliver everything, all the Amazon packages, all the groceries, everything. If a credit freeze occurs and distribution stops, then how do people get their food? How do people we're going to go into full-blown chaos. And at that point, who cares about crypto? Because you can't eat a crypto. You can't eat a gold coin, right? So, not to say that all this is going to happen, but come on, something at some point has got to give. And I think we are at the brink of that happening between the traditional financial system and the new financial system, which is a fiat currency debt-based system, a system that prints money out of thin air, loans it to the government with interest attached, then we the taxpayer have to pay it back plus interest. I mean, come on, what sort of rigged deal is that? It's a scam. And then at the same time, you have corruption and you have all these things, the wars and this and that and the economy and the interests and all this stuff is just negative and negative. And we hear it all the time, negative, negative, negative. Why? Because the whole system we live in is a big scam, right? And what is crypto? To me, crypto is the solution. Crypto is the answer. Crypto makes banks, governments accountable for what they are, right? Because they can't just hit a button, print money, and pay off, whatever, right? And same thing with gold. If the currency needs to be backed by gold, then it makes governments more accountable, right? Because what's the worst thing we got right now is government spending. The government just spends and spends and spends and spends and spends. And then what happens? Inflation. What else happens? The economy gets all screwed up, right? They're trying to stimulate the economy. But I'll give you an example. And it's kind of a funny one. If you stimulate the economy too much, what happens? It no longer works, right? Like, for example, if you take a laxative, right? It says on the back of the thing, don't take. It's a stimulant, right? It's a stimulant. What it does is it contracts your bowels so that you can go. But guess what? If you continue to take it, it's no longer going to work. Why? Because your stomach is going to get used to it. And that is the problem. The government continues to stimulate. And what happens? It gets used to it, and then it needs it. And then when you stop it, it starts to have a withdrawal. It's like a drug addict that's withdrawing from drugs, right? From whatever. It needs it. It's dying without it. So what I'm saying is we are at the brink of a major transition. In my opinion, I could be totally wrong, But I feel like we are at the brink of a major economic transition out of the old central banking system into a new decentralized gold-backed system. Now, the deep state, the bad guys, what do they want? They want what? CBDC, tyrannical control. They want all that stuff, right? So to me, I think that's going to be offered up. But at the same time, I think there's also going to be alternative solutions. And to me, that's why they're going after crypto. That's why they went after XRP. That's why they're going after the exchanges, right? Think of the exchanges like the drug dealers. They're going after the drug dealers. And me and you are the users, right? We're using the crypto. They're going after us too with taxes and all that. So you can tell that we are a threat to them. Like, for example, the SEC. What is his name? Gary Gensler. Who is Gary? He's a Goldman Sachs boy. He's a central bank puppet, right? So, anyway, sorry, I ranted and ranted and ranted and ranted. But that's just the deal, right? We don't live in a people system. We live in an unfair central banking system. And basically, we are in crypto so that we can get gains, so that we can bypass all the inflation that is being dumped on us, right? It's just another tax. So the whole thing is one big corrupt Ponzi scam. And they say crypto is a Ponzi and all that. But you know what? To me, crypto is a threat. And you attack those you fear the most. And that is why they attack it, because they don't like it. Just like when Tim Draper was on stage with Gary Gensler. He told Gary Gensler straight to his face. He says, first they attack the bankers, they attack crypto. Then they realize they can't do anything. Then they have to join them. And then they try to take over, right? So anyway, I digress. That is my rant for the day. But just be cautious, right? We are all on the same team. Gold, silver, Bitcoin, altcoins, we're all in the same boat. And what is that? Anti-debt instruments, right? The biggest thing to me is bet against the debt and become your own central bank. Don't depend on banks. You should be becoming your own central bank, right? And I think, we're coming up on an election year. I think a lot's going to change after this next election. That's just my hunch. I could be wrong. But once it happens, we're going to see some major things go down. I mean, just think about in the last 5 years, right? If someone were to tell you, like, imagine it's 2017 and I was in a time machine and I knocked on your door and I said, hey, guess what? And you said, what? You say, who are you? I say, don't worry about it, but listen to me. In 2020, we're going to have a worldwide pandemic. We're going to have war with Russia and this and that and Ukraine and blah, 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 blah. I don't want to say the words because you might get a strike. But, the C-19 stuff, right? So imagine all of that gets put out there. Are you going to believe it? Heck no. But then what happened? In 2020, we had C-19. We had a global shutdown. We had a worldwide global shutdown. The whole economy shut down. If I told you that, you probably would have never believed it. I wouldn't have believed it. I would have never believed it, right? But it happened. So if that can happen, what else can happen? And they're already announcing what they're going to do, which is a cyber attack. That's why I say don't keep a lot of money on exchanges. Don't keep a lot of money in the banks, right? And it's like, well, where do you keep it? Well, I keep mine on a hardware wallet, and I keep mine also on, I don't want to say it publicly, but I keep it in safe places, and I think you should too. So, anyway, sorry for my rant. I'm just, it just gets upsetting when you look at the world and it's just how crazy things are, and it all revolves around the financial system. That's what it's all about, right? If they say it's about this or politics or Trump or Biden that's nothing. That's like a little tiny little nothing compared to the Federal Reserve and the Rothschilds and the central banking system, the big things, right? So anyway, I really like this pump right here. This pump right here was nice. And then what happened? We went down into this bull flag. So boom, and then we consolidate. We impulse to the upside, we consolidate, pull back to the downside. Then what happens? Boom. So what can expect to happen? Maybe a little pullback, or maybe we continue higher, right? But either way, I'm expecting more upside. So question is, do we get a back test first and then go up? We just have to wait and see. I think this is a 1, 2, potentially a third wave, right? And now we're in wave 5, right? So then what happens next? Probably an A, B, C pullback, and then another push to the upside. So we just have to wait and see. But right now, I'm definitely bullish. So on the broader altcoin market cap. And if you want any good example, it is that Wyckoff accumulation example that I had there. So look at this right here. We basically broke out of this range. Boom, boom, right? So that is our new support, right? We came down, we back tested a little bit. Now we're a little bit higher. We can continue to back test right in here and then continue higher, right? So we just have to wait and see. I mean, here's the price of ADA. It's basically looks like the same chart. We broke out, so let's see what happens. So the price of Theta, the video already got too long. I might make another video for Theta, but just spend more time on it in the next video. But basically everything is still on track, and that was that thing I tweeted out, the red path, the green path, the purple path, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is, I don't think that's likely to happen because of the total 3 breaking out. And another thing would be a shoulder, a head, and now we come down, we develop that right shoulder. So the question becomes, are we developing that right shoulder now? So we're going to pull back, maybe go sideways a little bit, right? And then just have this neckline right here. Here's our neckline. We pull back, break out, and then we go. That's sort of the major thing I'm looking for. Because we have this huge pump, we have this huge dump, we have this sideways base. What happens next? It's usually always a retracement, right? You have a rise, crash, right? You have this sideways on the base on the bottom, and then you go into a retracement. And then from there, we can either go to a new bull run or go into reaccumulation and then go on the bull run, or worst case scenario, go to a C wave. So it'd be A, B, C, and then go to a bull run, right? So you have 3 different options, but they all lead to more upside. But for me, right now, what's going to happen next? And for me, I think we have much more upside to go. Now, this is the 4-day chart, but basically, looking at it from a weekly perspective, my targets are still the same, which is getting back up into the 618702 area, right up into here. So, and how we get there, that's anybody's guess, right? How we get there is the hard part. When we get there is even harder. But one thing is for sure, I think at some point we will get there. The question becomes, this is our here's a few options right here. So horizontal line, I think we flag out in here, flag out right in here, or make a right shoulder, then break out. Then once we break out, probably something like this, back test, and then we go. So that's sort of my main idea right there. Now, is it possible that we've already flagged out enough, right? So if I go into let's go to the 2-day chart. Yeah, it doesn't look like we've consolidated enough. So if I draw this down here, that's our resistance line. To me, it looks like an A, a B, and now we need to come down for C, like a little flat. So it's like a flat pattern, right? So boom, 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 and then we can start going higher. So we have our A wave, we completed the B wave, so let's go down for wave C. Now where can wave C go? We can come down and we can back test right down in here, right? We can back test wave C, boom, 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 and then go, right? Or worst case scenario, I don't think this is going to happen, but worst case scenario, we back test this area down in here, and then we go. But all directions say that we go, right? So those are the two options that I'm looking at. So those are the two corrective options. The other idea here would be that this is already finished, right? This is already finished, and that was our little pullback, right? And now this is a 1 2 1 2, and now we're just slowly starting to creep out, and then we start rolling to the upside, just kind of like how Bitcoin did, right? So remember Bitcoin, it had this little, like this channel in here. Here's Bitcoin right here. So same thing. Look, check this out right here. Here's Bitcoin. So remember, it had this little channel in here, and it looked like it was gonna, it had this move where we had this down move, this up move, and it looked like we were gonna come down. But what did it do? It just continued to oscillate in the channel, and then boom, it broke out. So going back to theta, same thing. So that could be what's happening now. Let me draw the channel a little better. Yeah, I'm not sure how would I draw it. Maybe like this, right? So maybe we continue to oscillate in this channel, right? And then just creep on out, just like Bitcoin, right? We just kind of oscillate in here, boom, break out. So those are your three options, right? Or really two options. So once again, two options. For the short time frame, the big time frame, I'm expecting upside, right? The short time frame is like, how do we get there and things like that. So number one, A, B, C. Now C can go anywhere it wants, right? So we just have to wait and see. So if I let's pull a little Fibbo and see where wave C can end up at. So if I take this right here, and I pull it down to here, and then I pull it back up to here. Now, granted, this has to be the end of it, right? Probably somewhere in here. Worst case scenario, down here. So, let me get rid of that. So there you go. There's your little target area. So that would be A, B, and then we work down for C, and then we go. That would be the end of it, right? And then that would be sufficient enough to create that left shoulder, or I'm sorry, the right shoulder. So here's your left shoulder, here's your head, and now it's developing the right shoulder, and then boom, you break out. So let me pull a target here, right up there. I take that and I'll put it right above there. I'm not trying to pinpoint it exactly, but that would get us right up to the 200-week moving average, around $2.50 up to $2.60, right? Or basically this pivot right in here, the bottom of this. And look at it, it matches up perfectly. Look at that. So inverse head and shoulders, break out and go. So yeah, that's option number one, right? And then option number two would be that channel, right? The channel would suggest kind of like Bitcoin's channel, right? So going back to Bitcoin very, very fast, you can see how it created this channel in here. Let me get rid of that. I'll put the channel back on so you can see it nice and clean. So there was the channel right in there, and oscillating, and then boom, breaks out. So we can expect maybe potentially the same thing for theta. Now it's not a perfect channel. I'm still debating on how I should draw the channel, but for now I'm going to keep it like that. So we can see some oscillation in here, and then boom, breakout. right? So that's basically your two options, right? A, B, C, and then go, or channel on up and then go. So there you go, guys. I don't want to keep this video too long. It's almost, oh man, it's already going on an hour. So, so let me just zoom out here and give you my final thoughts, and we'll wrap this video on up and go on about our day. So basically, here's your channel. Or, I'm sorry, here's your base. Bullish consolidation, breakout. Here's your bull run, right? Your flagpole. And then here's your flag, right? And the question becomes, do we break out of this flag? And I think yes, not financial advice, but I really, really believe, and I'm positioned by, you always say, put your money where your mouth is. Well, guess what? My money is definitely where my mouth is at. I am definitely positioned in Theta. Yeah. And then also another reason why also is the Wyckoff accumulation, just like in Total 3, right? We had our spring phase down here, and I did a lot of the video on Total 3 and then a little rant, so I didn't really have much time to go through Theta. So I will revisit Theta on the next video and go more in depth. But basically, just looking at the Wyckoff here, your first test, your second, then you have your spring, right? Broke the liquidity. And then you also have this little mini tiny, you can't see it because it's a weekly chart, but you have a small Wyckoff pattern down here. So yeah, those are all the options there. So don't be surprised if we get a pullback, though. I think a pullback could be healthy. Yeah, we just pull down in here. So yeah, if you're a hodler, you're not worried about it. This is just a little update. It is nothing to worry about. Just a little pullback potentially coming, or like I said before, Bitcoin, we grind up in that channel. So anyway, guys, thank you guys for listening. Thank you for watching. If you can, drop a comment, drop a like. I know I had a couple requests for some coins, and I haven't looked at them yet, but I'll circle back to them, and I'll see if we can come up with a video on that. But anyways, guys, thank you for watching. I will catch you on the next one. Cheers.